Welcome back to the new episode of USD 495 Super Chats, the podcast where we will help you to discover new insights about USD 495 Fort Larned. The show will take you on a journey celebrating successes of students and staff, increase awareness about our programs and partnerships, and provide information on upcoming events. I'm your host, Bryce Wachs, Superintendent, and I would like to welcome our guest for this episode, Mrs. Jami Dryden, third grade teacher at Fort Larned Elementary School and a 2024 Horizon Award recipient. Jami is one of the 32 teachers across the state recognized in February. The annual recognition recognizes 32 teachers, 4 elementary classroom teachers, and 4 secondary classroom teachers from 4 regions. The mission of the award is to recognize exemplary first-year teachers who perform in a way that distinguishes them as outstanding. So, Jami, welcome, and again, congratulations on the honor.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, we talk about that honor. Go into a little bit of how you were, obviously you knew you were nominated. Mm-hmm. How did you find out you were selected, that you were one of the 32 that were selected across the state?
Okay. Well, I was on recess duty, and Triniti came down to get me, and she was like, hey, can I just see you for a minute? And I'm like, what's going on? This is weird. So she was asking me about letters training, which is something that we're working on, and we went to her office, and her phone rang, and it was Dr. Watson on the phone, and then I kind of blacked out after that. So luckily Allisa was videoing, and it was just really, I was in shock, very much in shock. I was honored to be nominated, and then to actually win was just overwhelming. It was amazing.
Probably one of those surreal moments. You're not expecting to walk into the principal's office, phone to ring, and it to be not trying to, and Dr. Watson would be shocked if I said, royalty, but the Commissioner of Education in the state of Kansas, reaching out and calling you on the phone on the day.
Oh, 100%. So then after he had kind of announced that, afterwards I'm like, wait a minute, did he say winner? Did he say nominee? I'm not really sure what's happening right now. And so, again, thankful for that video because I went back and double checked.
And you win that award and stuff, and which is a tremendous honor. One of the 32, first year teachers, and kind of a little background on that. It's staff that it's teachers across the state that have completed 1 full year, so then they get honored in their second year of service to the profession. But part of that honor was then being part of, from now till eternity, where you're part of the KEEN network is what the state of Kansas calls it. So it's the Kansas Exemplary Educators Network, and they have an annual conference each year. So now you get to be a part of that conference, and was able to go this year. What were some of the things you got out of that conference?
One of the first things that really resonated with me, the very first introduction before the first speaker even came out, I think you were sitting there with me, the woman that was speaking, she said, I'm sure you all are feeling like you have imposter syndrome right now. And I was like, okay, these people are with me. Just like I said, I never expected to win that, and that just feels like when I go to work, I don't think, man, I am going to be an exemplary educator today. I'm just doing what feels right to me and doing my job, and so I was kind of feeling that way. And then you listen to more and more people talk, and you're like, okay, like the first guy was a PE teacher, and he was talking about doing affirmations with his kids, and I'm like, oh, I do that. So it was just really neat to kind of hear from people that are doing some of those same things that are just everyday things that I'm doing, but maybe that's not always the norm, or, just kind of getting that feedback of, okay, you're doing some good stuff. So that was pretty awesome. And
that KEEN it has a wide spectrum, so it has Horizon Award winners there, so teachers that have been honored, in their first year, and even, previous Horizon Award winners that might be in their 5th or 6th year of teaching. But then on the other end of it, the KEEN has Horizon Award. It's made up of Horizon Award winners and every educator that's been nominated and named a Kansas Teacher of the Year. So it's that wide spectrum. So that room had a lot of different educators along their spectrum. in attendance.
Well, and one of them I wasn't aware of. Now I can't remember what it was called. Was it the Mellgren Award?
Yeah.
Do you remember? There was a lot there that had won that award too. So another side of that exemplary. And I don't know that a lot of people really know any of that even is a thing. Even for me, like I didn't know what the Horizon Award was until I was told I was nominated. And then even after the fact, I didn't realize how much went into that nomination, all of the recommendation letters and all of that. So then kind of learning about that, it was like, oh, this is kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big.
Okay.
Yeah, and looking at that, obviously you won the award, the Horizon Award, and now you're in your second year of teaching, but kind of took a non-traditional path to get to the classroom and stuff. Fill everybody in kind of what was the path that you took to now be in a third grade classroom.
Okay. Well, do you want the long story or do you... honestly, I started out in cosmetology and I applied as a para just to kind of supplement as I was establishing that. And I grew up in a daycare, so this should have been obvious to me, but it wasn't. And as the more I worked at the school, it was like, man, I really enjoy this, And so then eventually I moved into the library and I was a library aide there for, I think 9 years, 10 years, somewhere around there. And that's kind of where I was really managing a classroom. Not so much the curriculum side of that, but 30-minute sessions with every class, and I just loved it. And so then it kind of became a financial decision, honestly, because I wanted to be able to contribute more at home. And I mean, teacher pay is the big discussion right now, but para pay is less than that. So it was a financial decision for me. And so my aunt actually told me about the TAP program at Wichita State. She is a big alumni there, big Shocker fan. So I looked into that because at that point, the only one I was aware of was the Para to Pathway program at Fort Hays State. And the student teaching for that was done differently. Like, I was still going to have to take time off of work to do my student teaching. And so it was an accelerated program, but I didn't really have that choice to just take time off from work to do that. You know what I mean? So the TAP program was fully integrated with what I was already doing. I, at that point, enrolled with them, and your student teaching is basically done over that whole 2 years of what I was doing for my bachelor's. And instead of just working with one teacher, then I had this opportunity to go wherever I wanted. I just had to have a content area that was correct. So that was really a great fit for me at that time. And then Katrina was amazing because I'd be like, hey, can I maybe work in the title rooms for a little while? So really, I got to experience every aspect of teaching in a building. It may not have been for months at a time, but I was still just getting that exposure to it.
Yeah, and and you talked about that para to teach program, and that was one of the years ago one of the issues with it, because they used to have to take that full semester off. I remember going through a traditional system like I did to become a teacher. You have your full semester of student teaching, and that used to be the only avenue, even when you're working each day as a para, but then doing coursework outside and evenings and stuff like that, was figure out how are you going to take off
how do I
a semester and fit that into daily life, and no income for a semester of teaching. So that's been a tremendous benefit of the TAP program.
Absolutely. But on the other side of that too, when and maybe you can feed into this a little bit, but I had so much experience with classroom management at that point, and not only myself being in the library, but also seeing how others were handling that in their rooms. And I think we can all agree that in a teaching program at a college, you're not really getting that side of it. And even if you do get to your student teaching, max 1 to 2 teachers that you're exposed to. And so you're not everybody teaches alike. And so that opportunity to see a little bit of everything, for me to then go into a classroom was like, okay, I know what is going to work for me because I've seen all these different examples. And that was really, really beneficial.
Yeah, and I think that's, right now the state is really pressing and working with colleges across. It's a new program that's kind of outside of that TAP. It's an apprenticeship, looking at going into teaching. Is more designed for students out of just graduating from high school, instead of traditional 4-year setup,
Right.
where it's a mixture of an apprenticeship and their college coursework and pairs. So that'll be exciting to see how that fits and how that gets a new generation of educators. So, but as we move on, it's now time for our USD 495 Quick Fact, where we share a quick and interesting fact about our district. And as we're approaching National Teacher Appreciation Week, it is an honor that we have so many alumni that have chosen to return home and play a pivotal role in educating the future generations here in the USD 495 school district. So out of our 75 teachers in our district, 30 of them are Larned High School alumni, which is, that's a tremendous number. You're one of those alumni.
Yeah.
So what is it like? Obviously you're not in the same elementary school.
Yeah.
Now that when you went to school here, but what is it like, being at one time years ago, being a student in one of the elementary classrooms, and there's probably still some faculty members at the elementary school that were your teachers. Now you're a colleague with them.
Yeah. It's really hard to call them by their first name. Like, I don't think I'll ever call Mr. Upson Scott. It's just weird. I can't do it. I can finally call Mr. Glado Dave. But yeah, that was the weirdest thing at first, was just like, you still feel that they're, you need to be respectful and use their last name. And so it's been really cool to kind of come full circle with that, though, especially with that non-traditional path. So starting so young in the schools, it's been cool to just kind of grow up with a lot of them too. So yes, some of them were my teachers, but even just my coworkers now that have been my coworkers for so long, it's been really neat to kind of go on that journey with them and just experience that. So
if your students know, or past and students from last year, and some of your colleagues know, but when I've walked into your classroom or walked by your classroom, it's a little bit more non-traditional, just how it's set up from the term in education. There's a lot of flexible seating, but others might not know what flexible seating and what it looks like in there. Lights are usually down. Sometimes there's music playing, and so explain a little bit about what your classroom looks like, that it doesn't look like the traditional every student's in a row and stuff. What's the vibe you're trying to get?
Honestly, it kind of comes from a little bit of a selfish place, because that's where I spend my day. And so I don't want to spend my day in a plain space. I want to feel comfortable. And that's how I want my kids to feel. So one thing that, I don't even know why, but it was really important to me when setting up a classroom, was like, I love to have pictures of my family around and be able to see that. And so I put little bulletin boards for all of them. They all have one at their cubby, and they can bring pictures, or a grade they're proud of can go up on it, things like that. But it just makes them feel like that's their space. And I just, the more comfortable they are, I feel like the more they learn. And we all had a non-traditional school setting, right? And how comfortable were those desks all day long? And they think that's the coolest thing when they have a tall desk and they get to sit on a desk, to sit at their desk. But a lot of that actually came from Matt Sletter. He is even more non-traditional in his classroom setting. But every time I'd go in there, you just felt like they were more at ease, and I felt more comfortable. And so that's where a lot of that comes from, is just trying to make them want to be at school and make them feel comfortable in their space and feel safe. So
and I think that right there allows some of those students, like you said, putting their thing by their cubby, allows them to feel comfortable, makes it feel like it's their learning space. It's where they're going to. They spend a lot of hours there every day, so it's making them, feel at home and kind of feel what is going to be good for them. As we're talking about that classroom setup and so on, for others that aren't in a classroom day in and day out, what does a typical day look like for for an elementary teacher. I spent 1 year teaching, or 2 years teaching elementary at the elementary level. Majority of my time was at the secondary level, which is completely different than a typical day as an elementary educator, because there's a lot more that goes into that on a given day. Than it's just different.
Yeah. I think I've been trying to think about this for a little bit, but I think the best way to sum it up is that it's just a constant juggle. You're trying to balance all of these things and your kids and the curriculum, and this is what we need to do today, but I need to answer these emails, and somebody is calling me, oh, this kid's leaving. Like, that's, all in about 10 minutes at a time that this is all happening. And when I think about that too, this will sound random, but when John and I got married, somebody gave me the advice forever ago. They were like, marriage is not 50-50. It's usually going to be 40-60 or 70-30. It's never equal all the time. Somebody always needs more. But that's how a classroom is too.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, if everybody was just always having a great day, you maybe wouldn't be juggling quite so much, but there's every day that one kid's going to need a little bit more just because of something going on. Or maybe they just had practice late and they're just tired, or, so that adds to that juggle of just trying to make them feel safe and ready to learn, and also still trying to do all of those things that we need to get done in a day. So
yeah. So we're here visiting with one of our great teachers in the district, but we're also extremely blessed in our district to have other great staff that care about our students that as they walk into schools each and every day. So it's time for some staff shout outs, giving some recognition to our staff members across the district. So Shane Sundahl would like to shout out his middle school staff for completing the state testing, including additional makeup sessions. Your hard work and commitment are greatly appreciated. Dustin Wilson wants to thank Craig Lyman for hosting the Acacia Regional Music Festival. Also with that, Mr. Lyman had 7 soloists that received a 1 rating, so way to go, students. Katrina McGurk wants to thank Amanda Johnson for helping organize the eclipse viewing at LES. And also congratulations to Terry Rainbolt, Karen Fairchild, and Tina Glado on receiving many grants from the Fort Larned Foundation for Education. So some other great things going on around the district and with our staff. So, as we start to finish up, you talked about each and every day is different, and different students, different needs on a different day. What would you say would be the greatest challenge as being a teacher? And yes, you've had a short time as a teacher in the last 2 years, but obviously you've spent 10 plus years in the school setting, and all of us that have been in education for a number of years, education continues to change. Right. So what would you say would be some of the greatest challenges right now? Coming in as a first year teacher, one of the bigger challenges for me was just getting familiar with that curriculum side of everything. I mean, give me a handful of kids, I can do that in my sleep, but just making sure that I know what I need to know and that I'm doing it right, and that's ever changing. And even though we don't get new curriculums all the time, the curriculums that we do have, we have to stay updated on and be aware of those things. And just, I think on the other side of that, the data side of things, and making sure we're keeping up on where our kids are at and juggling that with those other plates, so they're getting their needs met, whether that's socially, emotionally, or academically. And I feel like that is ever changing too. From the top all the way down, things that are required that have to be done, and things that we're just trying to do because we care about our kids and we want to make sure they're where they need to be. And what you talked about specifically on the data side is it's a balance.
Right.
I mean, there is a ton of instruments we have. I mean, as a district, there's a ton of instruments that are out there. As like when you were at the Keene conference, others are talking about, hey, we're using this and we're using that. There's so many things out there that we could use.
Yeah.
So you could be overdone with
right.
data that really then at that point is not going to impact what's going on a day in and day out basis.
Yeah. And on the other side of that too, I feel like where we're really looking at attendance right now, and maybe that's not always considered important, it's so huge. Because if you think about it, we're covering at least one lesson a day in every content area. So if your kid's gone for 2 days, they're 2 days behind. And when you get into those data points and you're looking at all of that stuff, it's really hard to get them caught back up to those things. We had snow days this year. As much as we all love a good snow day, man, it takes a while to come back from that, just routine wise, plus where they're at in their learning. So
yeah, you think about 100. I mean, our students have 170 days.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't take very many days from that 170 to start having that starts to become a large percentage.
Right. Yeah.
And then once days start adding up, and there's tons and tons of research out there that 3, 4, 5% of the days does not have a huge academic impact. But as soon as the student reaches 10% of the days, then it starts to have a dramatic impact, and the scale that goes from 10 to 11%, 11 to 12%, and so on, just continues to grow exponentially. That's really the cut point of where it starts to have significant academic issues for a student.
Yeah. Well, for us, like at the 3rd grade level, we're that first state assessment level. And so we've kind of got that timeline ahead of us that they need to know all this stuff before this test, and as much as we don't want to test to rule everything, those 2 days, that was 2 things they needed to know for that test, so it's just, you don't realize it from a parent perspective, but as a teacher, it's like, no, I need you to be here.
Yeah. So as we close up, obviously you took a non-traditional path to education, and have been tremendous here in the last 2 years. What would you say either for our high school students that are looking for a career or what they're wanting to do in the future, or somebody that took more of the non-traditional setup, why should others become a teacher?
Teaching is very rewarding. And this year especially, now that I've had my first crew, and I see them on the playground and they still have to come and give you that hug. And even some of these kids on this video today, I was their library teacher, and so to see them and just watch them grow and excel, it's just, you can't really put words to that. I feel like it's not an easy thing all the time, but it's worth it. And we need people that want to do it, because they can tell if you don't want to do it. And that's what makes learning fun.
I said that some JAG students asked me earlier, what is the one thing that you like? And I answered it was, we get to watch the excitement of kindergarten. What makes me excited about the job every day, we get to watch the excitement of a kindergarten student walking on that first day with all the enthusiasm. And sometimes that does dwindle over the course of that 13 years. But we see that same excitement on Saturday afternoon on graduation when they're getting ready to line up and stuff. So I think that is what, when we see the benefit and we have challenges and stuff, but the benefit we see in educating our students goes from what that 13 years looks like, and then what the future holds for them by giving them a valuable education.
Absolutely.
So Jami, thank you very much for joining us today. It was great to have a visit. Again, congratulations on the honor of being Horizon Award winner. I mean, there's only 32 that get that honor in a given year, and there's a lot of first year teachers out in the state of Kansas. I mean, that is a small segment that gets to win that award. So congratulations.
Thank you. I'm still feeling the imposter syndrome a little bit, but very proud of that. Yep. It was very amazing. So
thanks again for tuning in and listening. We're always, like I said last time, always taking recommendations, so get those to us. You can get those to Allisa Spain and send those our way. But until next time, keep showing your Larned pride and go Indians.